Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, the city of Chicago's official submission to the Academy.
Ooh.
It's Arturo Zurita.
And we have to keep that Academy 4-3 ratio. When Zach and I record, I see him in the little... technically, it's like it's him and it's I, so instead of a side thing, I think when we get closer to the Snyder Cut, we're going to have to do that 1-3-3-1 little ratio thing going on.
Yeah, cropping the corners a little bit.
Cropping the corners over here on the podcast. I mean, technically, YouTube's getting ready to roll out those things where it's just going to be short videos, so... Hey, who knows? Intercut coming to you vertically soon.
Too bad we can't be on Quibi anymore. But
Yo, Quibi got picked up by Roku. You never know. It never ends. Nothing ever dies, Zach. Nothing ever dies.
Yeah, we'll be coming to you soon from Roku TV, but in a little bit, we are going to talk about the best documentary films, best foreign films of 2020, as well as narrative-based video games and Emile Mosseri. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's at IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. It makes me happier than when a movie trailer features a creepy remix of a popular mid-90s pop song. Those are great. Shout out to Major Frank 10, who left us a 5-star review and wrote, "Nice." Ooh. Not a man of many words, but still a review that we really, really appreciate. Yeah, you don't have to say a lot to help us out, so thank you for leaving that review. Art, let's get into it. The Oscars, the Academy Awards, the major motion picture awards of the world, if that's what you want to go with, I don't know. The one that at least gets the most attention released their shortlists for what will be considered in many categories. They released their shortlists for visual effects, for best original song, for best original score, speaking of Emile Mosseri. But most notably to us, they released the shortlist for best documentary feature, best animated feature, best foreign film, or best international feature, I should say. And that gives us a chance to hone in on what the Academy might pick in many of these categories that often have really interesting movies. Just last year, it was Parasite that not only won international feature, but best
for the first
picture
time,
as
yeah.
well. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but there's still plenty of interesting movies to talk about. I want to get us started with the best documentary category. We spent a lot of 2020 talking about different documentaries that we liked. It was a great year for documentary, as it feels like every year is becoming increasingly just like the proliferation and just great quantity and breadth of documentaries out there has been awesome to see. So ultimately, the Oscars selected 15 movies into their shortlist. Those 15 movies are All In, The Fight for Democracy, Boys State, Collective, Crip Camp, Dick Johnson is Dead,
Fantastic.
Gunda, MLK, FBI, The Mole Agent, My Octopus Teacher, Nocturno, The Painter and the Thief, 76 Days, Time, The Truffle Hunters, and Welcome to Chechnya. It's a really great selection of movies there, but there are movies that will slip through the cracks. I wanted to know if there were any documentaries that you loved from 2020 that got left off of the Academy shortlist.
Yeah. So first off, last year, I think the record was 150 something movies that were submitted for this category in particular. And like that was the record. This year it was over 200. I think it's like also 250 as well. So there was a record number of docs that were added. I know I have some here on the list that didn't make the short list. I think they may have still been submissions. Some weren't even submitted at all. But some of the ones that I know didn't make it. Finding Ying Ying was one that I very much, I don't even want to say the word enjoyed, but really impacted me and has stuck with me for a while. That is one of the ones that would have ended up in my top 5 if we don't include what would be series. And I guess my runner-ups as well would be that because of a rule that happened not too long ago after OJ Made in America, we disqualified things such as City So Real. Series like, I guess The Last Dance technically would have counted because that would have also been an ESPN film. But obviously after Sundance released the OJ doc and it won the Oscar, they quickly changed the rules right away, which is fine. Feels Good Man is another one that I think would have been a fantastic one to go to the shortlist, because we were discussing the other day, that's going to be a doc in this new, I don't want to call it the meme world, but in this economy of images and how we share them and who has the rights to them and what they can become. This is that documentary, man. And I think this is one of the ones that have not even made the shortlist, but we'll be talking about for a very long time to come. I think it'll be like a cult classic.
Yeah, one of the few movies out there that really feels like it has an understanding of how the internet works and is able to communicate that in a intelligible way. Totally a movie that speaks to the moment in a different way than I think the term speaks to the moment is normally used.
Honestly, because I don't think people realize how important this movie is going to be until more instances like that continue to happen. And they continue to happen. A Casa My Home, a movie that I wish would have gotten a little bit more recognition because I love the cinematography from that one. Won some awards for that as well. Coded Bias, another Sundance pick that...
Totally.
Well, that one definitely speaks to the moment. If anything, they are declaring, someone stop this. Very good breakdown. I believe that's still getting some virtual releases here and there if it's not already out, but I would highly recommend people checking that out. And then, of course, there's a little double feature here. I'll let you take it away between The Dissident and Assassins. I know Assassins is one that's on your list, but hey, I don't think the Academy was going to risk those two getting a nom.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder why those movies haven't necessarily had the impact on everybody else that they did on us.
I wonder too.
Assassins, crazy story, really well told. Just talking about, if we're talking about stories that depict a real life situation happening, I think Assassins is remarkable and gripping. So that was one of my favorite documentaries from the last year that didn't make it to the shortlist. Mayor is another one that I want to spotlight. The story of the Palestinian mayor of Ramallah, I believe the city was. Just in a year, or I guess a couple years now, where we've been getting all these really interesting looks at bureaucracy. We talked a lot about City So Real. We've talked about City Hall. Mayor does the same kind of thing, but rather than from an American perspective, you have it set in this country that is at the whim of so many other powers. It's fascinating the way in which government bureaucracy, amidst this chaotic situation at times, it still has to churn forward, and I think the documentary does a great job of highlighting that. And
also, not 5 hours. It's not 5 hours. It's 90 minutes.
Exactly.
And it's out on VOD as well. But yeah, I recommend that one.
Does it in a much more contained package. And then another one that I wanted to spotlight, although I don't know if it technically counts. I'm not sure if it got an American release or if it was submitted, but The Monopoly of Violence was one that I saw back at New York Film Festival.
Bro.
And to me, that's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen on police brutality. It takes it from the French perspective, and you know, being an American, it's always interesting to see the ways in which your culture or your country's issues are reflected in another part of the world. And there's some obviously really eerie resemblances too, but I really love the way that I think the director is David Dufresne, who he puts this together by, rather than having talking heads where you sit and you listen to a person
the one you
talk to. Yeah,
I thought it was
two people in a room. Yeah, two people in a room together where they're kind of like arguing with each other as the talking heads, and it creates just such a more visceral experience of the movie. I'm sad that more people haven't caught this one. It was really a standout for me.
I got a little story for you. One, how does it not count if it's from New York Festival and we're counting stuff like the American Sector and what's that other one that got the unnecessary sequel? You know what I'm talking about? The one that was against like big corporations. The first one was about Enron and stuff, and then they made like the unnecessary follow-up, the inconvenient follow-up. Someone don't know which one we're talking about. Documentary. That one was a submission. So I'm curious why that one didn't get submitted. Two, I thought you were talking about MLK FBI when you had said that. So I'm watching all of it, which great doc. I'm glad I made the short list. And I'm like, I don't know, Zach, this is pretty standard talking heads. That makes so much more sense. So third, do not confuse this movie with a version that's out on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime has a version of this. I don't want to say a version of this movie. They have a movie that has
same
a title
or something.
Very, very close title. Even eerily similar poster. No. It's a lie. They got me. I really thought it was going to be that movie. Damn. No, they are completely different movies. So I'm still waiting on this one. I want this one to come out. I have not gotten the chance to see that.
my feeling is whenever you get around to it that you'll want to talk about it. So we'll bring up the Monopoly of Violence again at some point. But I think we should talk a little bit about what actually got onto the shortlist, because this is a really excellent slate of documentaries. I gotta say, like, just about every documentary that I thought was really exceptional last year gets highlighted here. You know, even in trying to catch up with some of these, I guess a little bit of a spoiler for some of my feelings on it, but like I caught up with The Octopus Teacher a couple days ago because that one's available on Netflix. It was one of the last ones I had to watch, and you know, I was really moved by it. I thought it was a very lovely story, a very heartfelt assembly of the way that men and nature can come to a cohabitual situation, and just it speaks to nature in such a beautiful way. At the end of it, I'm thinking, wow, what a beautiful piece of documentary. I wonder where it ranks on my list, and I think I have it 13th out of these 15 movies. So
that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff here. So I wanted to talk to you about what we should ultimately put in the top 5. If we were the Oscars documentary feature committee, what would be our selections to be nominated for an Oscar? So before we start that, I wanted to ask you.
I was about to go in with my 5. Boom, 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 boom.
Before we get there, I wanted to ask you, are you going with personal favorites, or are you trying to think about this about like the art of documentary filmmaking, the films that move the medium forward in the best way?
Well, Zach, considering I still have 15 more documentaries I want to give a shout out to in this mention that we have not even talked about yet, I've been in my doc bag game for a bit. You know this. I have been very big on them. I tried picking a selection of 5 that I think the Academy would go for, and then some personal bias picks. Do you want me to give you the 5 and then we go from what we think is going to get picked, or how do you want to take this?
Do you want to eliminate some first or no?
That's a great way. All right, let's go from that. Let's start from the top then.
Okay, so here are some of my bottom ones that I think I'm going to just eliminate off the bat.
Okay.
Not because they're bad documentaries, but ultimately you got to choose the best ones here. I'm happy to go with My Octopus Teacher, which I just mentioned. A really lovely movie, but slight in comparison to some of these others.
Now, I know Gunda hasn't stopped you from not eating bacon. Please tell me that the next time we hang out, we're not ordering octopus or squid ever again, Zach.
I had calamari last night, so I don't know if I can.
I don't know how y'all do that. Little suction cups come down. All right, that one's fair. It's a good doc. Definitely check that out, and definitely put Playing with Sharks on your radar. Not a fish most people may be eating, but kind of has that similar vibe in where you have a person who really shows you the bond between an animal you wouldn't really think.
Yeah, a person with a unique ability to communicate with the ocean and ocean creatures. The Mole Agent is another one that we've talked about a lot on.
I don't know, Zach. This is one I don't have in my top 5 getting nominated, but the fact that this is I think it got multiple spots within the shortlist, you know?
That's something that we should talk about, because last year, Honeyland became the first film to be nominated both as a international feature and as a documentary feature.
Should have gotten cinematography too, but...
Now, uniquely this year, there are 2 movies that are nominated in, or at least on both shortlists. Mole Agent is one of them. We'll get to Collective, the other, in a little bit. Is that a sign that the Academy really loves this movie and is probably going to nominate it? Maybe.
I don't want to put it in my top 5 yet, but I can't cancel that one out immediately. But it is a fantastic documentary from Chile. We've talked about how it's over on Hulu. It's still doing virtual runs. You may be able to catch it for free from like IDA with a nice little behind the scenes. But we were talking about how PBS even had it, and that's been one of my favorite things when it comes to documentaries about getting the word out and being able to catch it for free. That one's a really good one. It starts off funny at first, and as you're seeing them kind of infiltrate this nursing home for elderly people, which then just becomes not even heartbreaking, just like just so heartfelt. And I can't get rid of this one just yet. I feel like this one might come in.
All right, Naterno.
Get that out of here, bro. No, look, I don't want to go into the foreign yet, but I don't understand how Italy submitted this and not Martin Eden. Not for me.
Or the Sophia Loren one, The Life Ahead, which potentially could have gotten nominated too.
They gave the doc short, which I guess is a. Can we bring that up really quick, or do we want to do that a little bit afterwards? What would Sophia Loren do? Got nominated for doc short.
Right. So I don't know. I guess whatever committee is behind Italy's decision just isn't that much of a fan of Netflix movies. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get to the doc short subjects later, but for me, no to Noturno. That one I'd be upset to see if it's somehow snakes them. I don't know.
I think there's a lot that's admirable about Noturno. It is
beautifully
filmed, but it's a little bit because of its assembly as kind of a mood piece, as kind of a abstract glimpse at the Middle East. I think it just feels a little bit lesser than some of the ones that it's stacked up against here. I'm happy to get rid of that.
Would you even put it above Octopus?
No, I mean, this is 15 out of 15 for me.
All right. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, me too, but go.
I have a feeling that you're going to push back on this one. And it's not because I didn't like this documentary, but it's more because I think it's not that groundbreaking in terms of what it's doing as a documentary film. And that's All In, The Fight for Democracy.
No, that one's leaving. That's okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah. I will say I would have loved to see more love going to the John Lewis Good Trouble doc. That was a documentary that I really enjoyed. Damn, bro, we had covered that one on LME streams when I was doing it early on, and the legend, passed away literally a couple days after that. I was like, yo, that is surreal. I would also recommend not just catching the John Lewis doc, but also reading his graphic novel adaptations. I read back like a couple years ago called March Book 1 and March Book 2. They are fantastic breakdowns on this man's life and all the work that he did. All In, The Fight for Democracy, I don't think that's the voting one, but I think
yes, with Stacey Abrams.
Okay, is this Stacey Abrams one?
Yeah.
Damn, okay. I was confusing this one with another one then. I do like the Stacey Abrams one, bro. Look, I am not a person who gets very political behind a person. I'll talk politics, but getting behind a person, I don't do that often. Stacey Abrams 2024, baby. Look, bro, I even had my mama's on. I was like, if Stacey Abrams was there, we're both voting for her. I like Stacey Abrams a lot.
Yeah.
This
is not an argument against Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, this one got to go, though. But watch. It's on Amazon. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Very good. And I think what I'm trying to emphasize here is that it's not about the quality of the documentary, but because it's kind of just like a standard sort of cut and paste, like message documentary.
Yo, but in real life, that woman won Georgia single-handedly, and she has not been given the credit she
won the real prize.
Oh, my goodness. No, she did. Maybe not All In, The Fight for Democracy, but the sequel, All In 2. Maybe that one will get all the way through. But no, that's fair. That's fair.
On a similar note, things that I think are great documentaries, but not necessarily innovative filmmaking. You just mentioned MLK FBI. It's a super well-made documentary, but when I put it up against some of these other ones, I don't know if it's in my top 5. I like this one a lot from Sam Pollard, a director that I like a lot, but it's not in my top 5 here.
I think I enjoyed it more than you.
Yeah.
But if I can't keep running out of these, and I only want to use 2 for 6 and 7, you know? And I don't want to waste an MLK FBI because I actually think that Mole Agent, the way that we talked about it statistically, will have more of a chance. I still think MLK FBI might sneak itself in there, but I'm okay with getting rid of this one. But I highly, highly recommend it. I really like the way that it breaks down just perspective. Because when you realize how things were at that time, you're not seeing this man as a hero. He was seen as... the amount of accusations they gave, to think about it in retrospect, how all of America was against him, to now be like, oh, no, we honor him on this day.
No, the depth of information and investigative reporting here is incredible. It's just ultimately, again, like I think about the form of documentary, and there's some things that impressed me maybe more formalistically. I don't even know what
because
word I'm trying to go for.
It really is a compilation of a lot of his best quotes, which is fantastic. It's great, and kind of leaves it open of like, hey, there's still files that are out there that won't be open until 2027. But I feel you. That's okay.
And then the other one that I feel like I just want to make a cut for is Crip Camp, but I don't know if you're going to go with me there.
No. I'm going to argue Crip Camp is going to be in the top 5. Crip Camp is going to be in the top 5 because it is a production by who?
Well...
It's a production by who?
Well, hold on. Here's the thing. Are we predicting or are we doing our personal?
This is kind of like a twofer.
Yeah.
My prediction for it going is stronger than where I would put it on my personal list.
But we're in charge here. This is our 5. What we think the nominees should be.
Yeah, I think Crip Camp should make it all the way for 2 reasons. I think that the subject matter and what it talks about for accessibility, I honestly, I have one. I have what I personally believe should win. I have what I think will win, and I have what I think should steal it. This one, I don't even want to call it a steal. I can see this one winning. The Obamas have had
American Factory.
And they had a previous one as well that also got a nomination, but American Factory won it. And this being a follow-up that they've had, Netflix has really been killing the documentary game since Icarus. Icarus was the first Oscar win that Netflix got. That was in 2017. What has happened afterwards? Roma, Coron, any single person that they wanted, as soon as they proved they were able to get that win, the floodgates opened, and now everything is Netflix. Crip Camp is that. The subject matter that it talks about, I would love to see them. This is, out of all of them, this is the acceptance speech I would want to see the most.
That's actually a great point. And yeah, I think a lot of what is going for it is because it's this really novel territory for this style of documentary, that there aren't a lot of documentaries that talk about handicap struggles in America. So I think as a message movie, it's the strongest of the documentaries here that I feel like are message movies.
I'd say it's even a little bit more innovative. This is, you were talking about the way it presents its message. This is the only one that actually went ahead and made it accessible for people who were either blind and people who were deaf as well, because they did the entire thing to be, what do they call it? They had the accessibility to it. There was a woman who did the entire adaptation for it, or I guess
the audio description?
The audio description, and she claimed, like, this is the first time I've ever been able to see a Netflix movie. So I think it walks the talk of what it's trying to do. I think it goes that way, and I think it's also started a new, I don't want to call it a revolution, but since this premiered at Sundance, every single festival, and this is very ironic, let me get into a little bit here, every single festival does this thing where they get to the Q&As and they go, hello, I am a Latino male in my 20s, sitting behind whatever. We've seen that happen a lot, right? I find that funny. It's great. I think we should continue doing that. Crip Camp started that ball in showcasing who you are so that people who can't see you are there. Guys, can we at least have the movies be that? You got people listening to interviews while they're doing that, but the movie's not accessible for people?
Right. It's been interesting, some of the like Sundance Q&As that are more accessible than some of the Sundance movies.
Thank you. Yeah. End of speech. I think Crip Camp should make it.
Okay, and that's totally a fair argument. I don't know if all of those accessibility features are even, on the Oscars radar.
Oh, they better.
So hopefully they are, because those would be arguments in its favor. But so, all right, we're not eliminating Crip Camp. I am willing to eliminate the 2 that I think you haven't caught up with, Collective and Truffle Hunters.
Interesting.
I think Collective will ultimately get a nomination here, and it is a remarkable documentary. There are reportage documentaries here that I think are better, and I'm going to defer to those than Collective. And then as far as Truffle Hunters, I think it is immaculately shot. It's got similar qualities to Noturno in terms of its cinematography, but I think the crux of the story here is so much more focused in a way that I appreciated, and it's about a subculture, if that's what you want to call it, that in these truffle hunters and their dogs that I had no idea existed. And to me, that's one of the great things that documentaries can do, is highlight stories that you had no idea were even there. But I don't know if this is, again, one that I'm going to argue is in my top 5. So I'm willing to eliminate both of those 2.
I mean, I feel like I agree with you with Truffle Hunters. I haven't seen it. The 2 docs that I have not seen, Truffle Hunters and Once Upon a Time in Venezuela. I'm waiting for Truffle Hunters to come out. Once Upon a Time in Venezuela, I think, is on topic.
That one's not on the shortlist.
It was one of the submissions. I'm talking just like docs that I have not seen that I really want to see. Yeah, those are my top 2. Number 3 is Collective. I also have not seen Collective. I've talked about my story in Collective where they damn near gave me the link at TIFF, and I was like, eh. And then as soon as it expires, Zach was like, bro, you see Collective is pretty good. That is my number 6, 7. If I have Mole Agent, so I have my top 5. Crip Camp is number 5. then it's Mole Agent, then it's Collective. These are the two I'm scared that will get rid of one of my top 5. I'm willing to get rid of it, but again, those two are going to mess things up. And these two are like the Stanley Tucci nom that I hope that you don't know is going to come in and like wreck things and get rid of a nomination for somebody.
Yeah.
Collective's had a strong run, it seems.
Collective's had a strong run, and I think that this has a good chance of being the one to repeat the Honeyland feat of getting nominated in both foreign
Same status
or
Mole
international
Agent,
and documentary.
One of these two is going to get it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Mole Agent. That said, it's not. These aren't my predictions. These are my picks.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'm willing to get rid of Collective.
All right, let's get rid of Collective then.
Anything else that you think we should get rid of?
Yes.
Before we even talk about our top 5?
76 Days. It's a really good doc.
It's great.
It is. It is a really good doc. I have seen better. I've definitely seen worse. 76 Docs is really good. I don't think it is going to make the top 5. I believe that next year we will have a really great doc in the same breath that should definitely go all the way. But yeah, I think that one should go. I don't know if you disagree.
No, I mean, I think 76 Days is really strong, but it's not necessarily one of the 5 standouts of the year for me. So I'm fine getting rid of that one as well.
Painter and the Thief can also go. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't see it. I have certain questions on the doc.
So here's where I might fight you a little bit.
Go ahead.
I really, really liked The Painter and the Thief. And
Okay.
part of what I liked about it is it's got this very interesting nonlinear structure that makes it feel almost more like a narrative than a documentary. There's a lot of things that feel more like a narrative than a documentary in this. If it's competing in this category, that's not up for me to decide, though. I just was riveted by the movie, the way in which it'll show you one person's story and then back up and kind of give you a different perspective. It does a really great job of kind of putting you in different people's shoes and showing you the progression of the story from all the angles. I really liked. I thought the structure was so integral to how the story was effective and so unique to see this in a documentary format that I really liked this one. I don't know. Personally, I got this in my top 5.
Woo! Okay, it's a Sundance flick. It's up on Hulu. I believe maybe PBS will pick it up at some point. I believe. Definitely give it a shot. I would say even go in as blank as possible because of the story. It is not in my top 5, but I will say this is one of the docs that I'm willing to give a rewatch. I have like a handful of 5. It's one of the ones I want to give a rewatch because there's just some things that didn't sit with me on the first run through of it, the way that the story is broken down. All right, we'll keep it. We'll keep
it for now.
We'll keep it. Dave, you're gonna fight for Painter and the Thief over Collective? On a personal,
I need to rewatch Collective.
Okay.
I haven't seen Collective since September 2019, I think. So I need to catch up with that one again.
Okay, we'll keep Painter and the Thief. It's neon though. It's neon, so I can't even right?
Yeah.
So yeah, good company
on
picked
Hulu.
it up. Gunda. It hurts.
We gonna do this?
Because at this point, I am arguing between what I think is a really good documentary and what I think will get nominated. And while this is the one where if it gets nominated, honestly, like Mole Agent, I feel might sneak in there. Be like, oh, good for Mole Agent. But I'd be like, good for Gunda. You and I went on this movie about it. Everyone was coming out of this going, it's a masterpiece. Or it's complete pretentious garbage. Both you and I were on this side for a little bit, man.
Yeah, it's kind of a masterpiece. This is for me where we get to that breakdown of, are we choosing the movies that do the most for the form of documentary, or are we choosing the movies that spoke to us the most? And unfortunately, I feel like since we've elected ourselves to the Oscars nominating committee, we have to think about the art form and how innovative maybe other pieces are, and how while we are moved and really touched by the beauty of Gunda. I don't know if it's what I want to select as the 5 from this year. It's gorgeous to look at, and I think the way it's constructed is really intelligent. I appreciated it so much. I think I'm more impressed maybe by 5 other documentaries this year, and it really breaks my heart because Gunda is like, I think that was my number 2 documentary when I was considering like for our top 10 lists, but I gotta leave it out here. Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know, man. Look, if Babe in the City got a nomination for Best Picture at some point in the 90s, I think, why can't Gunda? It is also a story in where you are. There's no words. There is no score. It is shot in black and white, beautifully shot in black and white.
It is really beautiful.
And you're sympathizing with a pig, bro.
It is kind of like the best of those like animals as protagonists movies, but about animals actually, and not some like fake narrative creation.
Yeah, and we talked about how the director was crying in the Q&As going, I was raised with Gunda. Look, we could keep it out, but I want to go on record going that if Gunda scored it now, I'd be pretty happy. Hey, I don't even want to spoil one of the upcoming ones. You know, out of the ones that we still have left, there is one that it's my favorite of the year. I'm a little worried it might not get nominated, and I honestly don't mind if Gunda gets the nom either, because my favorite is going to be my favorite regardless of what the Academy says. But
yeah,
we'll keep it out. I'm all right if it gets in there. Justice for Gunda.
I think in the honestly reacting to the Oscar nominations video, we're going to go craziest if Gunda gets in there.
Name me a better poster.
Oh, no, there's none.
None. All right. I think we're down to 5.
All right, so we both put Boys State in our top 10 of the year. That's definitely number getting 1 on there for us. Yeah.
Doc of the year.
We both, I'm assuming, have Dick Johnson Is Dead in our top 5.
That is a snub if it doesn't get a nomination. It may not get the win. Not a nomination is damn near stupid.
Yeah, it's just such a special documentary. You know, I'm trying to emphasize these ones that feel really unique. These films that could not have come from any other filmmakers. And a film about your dying father going through Alzheimer's as he's dying, but is not yet dead yet. It obviously could not have been made by anybody else, particularly given how Kristen Johnston is able to see herself reflected through the documentary film format. She's such a unique filmmaker in that way.
Yeah,
we love Dick Johnson Is Dead. I've been like scared to rewatch this because I was such an emotional wreck when I saw this at Sundance. Yeah, I think this year
for these type of stories too. You want it as a narrative, you want it as a short, you want it as a doc, bro. That is I mean, for us, we know people, relatives who have suffered from this as well, and like cinema is just coming in and going, well, let us capture that in cinematic form so you can feel these feelings if you've never gone through it. That is a shoo-in for me to getting a nomination.
Yeah, that's the one I'm probably going to be most heartbroken over if it doesn't get in from this category.
Yeah, that would make no sense. Nocturno gets it and not Dick Johnson. Oh my!
I think there's a world in which Dick Johnson doesn't get in, so I'm a little bit scared for Oscars.
We've been worried that last year was way too good, and we know what the Oscars tend to do.
Yeah, you gotta.
Time is winning. I don't see how it doesn't.
Time is winning this.
It has scored a bunch of nominations and wins throughout the entire award season. It's up on Amazon Prime. Another Sundance flick that also won awards there from the ceremony. And I don't see anything else winning. Do I have Boy State as my favorite? Yes. Do I think this is the one that's going to win? For sure.
Absolutely.
I have another one, though, that I actually want to score. I don't care if Boy State wins. Boy State already won my heart. But welcome to Chechnya, Zach. You finally saw it. You know I've been on this movie. You know I've been on this movie. What's up?
I did. Look, it's just a phenomenal piece of documentary filmmaking. I was talking about how I have one movie that I think is the best reportage documentary out there. It's this. This is really like
unbelievable.
In the field, giving you access to communities that we should not be able to have fly on the wall type of access to in these really intense moments, in moments of fleeing from authorities, in moments of personal pain, and how the documentary is able to communicate this with these warped faces through this really interesting technology that they use to hide the identities of these people is incredible. I was watching the documentary for a while, like knowing that this is a part of it, but not really seeing it until you see it, until a face doesn't exactly align perfectly. It's like, wait, they're using digital images right now.
Exactly. Because you see it in the poster, because the face is in the poster, and you go, oh, for sure. I remember that I was waiting in line for something at the Echoes. People were coming out talking about "Welcome to Chechnya." Oh, yes, it's really like this. They were from that part of like Russia, right? And they were like discussing this, and they were like, "God, it's very big." I caught it once. I believe I had seen it at a festival, virtual festival. So I quickly Googled, like, yo, what's going on with this movie and the behind the scenes of it. And we had discussed this on a previous Intercut, how it's not just using this technology to hide this person's face, a la this year's Sundance masterpiece Flea, which does that in animation. This does it in a way where it's not just this AI hiding the person's face. They used LGBT members, I don't know if they were from an organization or just people who they got together here in America, people who are free, people who have those freedoms, and they said, let me offer up my face to be a part of this amalgamation to hide you. Zach, this is the one I want to win. Time deserves it, and I think Time's going to take it, though.
I think Time is going to take it. I think Time deserves it as well. I think Time is a really stunning portrait of this family, of this woman, and it also is, talking about documentaries of the moment. This is easily the most of the moment, or maybe Boys State also, but I think more so Time, just in speaking on the impact of the penal system and showing you this family through all this time. It's such a moving piece of filmmaking. It's also beautiful to look at. I think the combination of its artfulness with its commentary is ultimately what takes Time to the top of this list. Welcome to Chechnya is a really strong contender. I'm pretty confident that it will get an Oscar nomination, and it deserves it.
I imagine it doesn't. Oh my goodness, Again, between Dick Johnson and Welcome to Chechnya, those I'd be upset for. When it comes to Boys State, all right, y'all's lost, but all right. So overall, it sounds like we have Boys State, Dick Johnson is Dead, Time, and Welcome to Chechnya. We are arguing whether it should be, what do we got over here?
Crip Camp or Painter and the Thief, or I guess Mole Agent we haven't eliminated yet, but I think we haven't eliminated,
but you didn't want Collective. All right, we'll get rid of Collective. We'll get rid of Mole Agent. They might sneak in there. I just really hope they're fighting for this spot that we're arguing right now and not the other four. Between Crip Camp and Painter and the Thief.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to Crip Camp.
Yeah, look, I think I like Crip Camp. I don't love it. You are stronger on Crip Camp, but you think there's elements of Painter and the Thief that are bogus. I'm happy to cede ground here. So
that's what I was going to say, since you said we're doing the Academy thing, we might have had to have done it the way the Academy does it, and I believe they go on shoot. It's usually the Academy way that they do it. Right. But all right, so we got Boys State, we got Crip Camp, we got Dick Johnson is Dead, Welcome to Chechnya, and what we believe is going to take it, which is Garrett Bradley's Time.
Yeah,
it's pretty solid.
For what it's worth, Gold Derby in their predictions of what's going to get nominated, they have Time, Collective, Dick Johnson is Dead, Welcome to Chechnya, and Boys State. So swap out Crip Camp for Collective, and they came to the same conclusions that we did.
Dang, those are the insiders right there. Yeah, they got the okay. I really quickly want to mention some other docs. Well, first the documentary Shortlist, I believe, needs to go to A Concerto as a Conversation, a movie that had not necessarily its premiere, but was hosted by Sundance. I believe it may have won some awards there as well, but it is available up on YouTube and the New York Times as well. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. The same way the way Zach was talking about how the Monopoly of Violence is able to shoot, the talking heads. This does so in a great way, because I believe it was done during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. But just the way that they shoot the conversation, I want that to win. But I am disappointed. Huntsville Station.
Oh, it didn't make the short list. Jeez, that is
That's
really
ridiculous.
Great short.
Hey, it better count for next year. But to wrap up this list, a big shout out to Whirly Bird, which I know wasn't even submitted, but I really enjoy that one. Donut King, a fantastic documentary about the man who had this whole reign of donuts over in California. 1,000 Cuts, a really good documentary about journalists in the Philippines. Spaceship Earth, I don't know if you ever caught that one, was a fantastic breakdown of literally trying to create another Earth here. And if you create another Earth, you're going to have the exact same problems within that Earth. Yeah. Some Kind of Heaven, I would have loved to right? I would have loved to have seen a little bit more love. But that is a filmmaker, that is a doc filmmaker that we're going to be seeing for a long time. Our buddy Chase, he just did a little collaboration with the man as well. He went to go shoot some stuff over there at the Florida villages.
Yeah.
And he got to meet the dude who did all the drugs in the movie. He did an interview with him. You had mentioned Mayor, and I just wanted to add some other breakdowns of some very iconic people. Mucho Mucho Amor, which talks about Walter Mercado. You can catch that one on Netflix. A really great breakdown on the man that had everybody going, damn, that's right, he's not dead. I had mentioned John Lewis' Good Trouble. House of Carden. Yep. I don't know if you saw this one. No. I quote this one to Alina all the time. It is about one of the biggest fashion designers who everyone called a sellout. And then he said, sir, do you see art or business? And he goes, everything is business. Not everything is art. And he decided to create this legacy of being able to put his stuff in department stores. And for a lot of people, what ended up happening is they called him a sellout, only to do what, Zach? What Disney Plus say about Netflix, only to become Netflix, right? They just did the exact same things back. There are some quotes from Carden that are fantastic. Frida Got a Gun. That one's over on Peacock? Very great. Yeah, if you haven't listened to Big Frida's music, she just came out with this Christmas mix about Santa Claus being a hoe. Be Water, I thought was an actual great, not profile on Bruce Lee, but his experience on coming over to Hollywood. And if you look at it as that, I think a lot of people were like, this doesn't cover his entire life. I'm like, I don't think that was the purpose of it. That's an ESPN flick. 40 Years a Prisoner over on HBO, a really great look at the movement and all the stuff that happened and how the police came in. I thought that was a great doc. And to wrap it up, The Earth is as Blue as an Orange. I liked seeing that was able to get
Sundance doc,
a submission. And so, hey, we talking about Sundance. Shout out Tabitha Jackson, who was responsible, I would say, for a lot of these documentaries because she was hosting that. That was her job for a long, long time. And she got the upgrade. And this year we experienced her in a revolutionary year becoming director of the Sundance Film Festival. So she's already been killing the docs as just ahead of that. Now that she's in charge of the whole thing, I mean, we got Flea this year. We got one of our favorites. We have our new waves. I'm still thinking about All Lights Everywhere. I think that's my new waves.
All Light Everywhere.
Still thinking about All Lights Everywhere.
Theo
Anthony. What a fantastic year for documentaries. Record-breaking over 250, I want to say. But that's our list. Let us know yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know what documentaries you want to see ultimately nominated for the Oscars, as well as any other documentaries that you think should have made the shortlist. But we're going to take a break from the shortlist to get to the interview and answer a couple questions from the Intercuties like you. We got a couple questions here. One from YouTube. Renitius asked us for our thoughts on the rise of Emile Mosseri. Said, I haven't seen Minari yet, but the score for The Last Black Man in San Francisco and Kajillionaire are amazing. He seems to have a different voice when compared to your usual composers. For me personally, I love his work. Obviously, he hasn't done a ton of film scores yet, but The Last Black Man in San Francisco has, I think, like one of the most gorgeous film scores I've maybe ever heard.
And to accompany that cinematography is unreal, dude.
I mean, that's a movie that the aesthetics of are amazing, but you know that score is one that I go back to and back to. I'm hearing it now in a bunch of commercials. Like it's one of those, you know, when sometimes the score is so great that all the companies just start ripping it.
Bro, that's right. We were watching because I never watch ads unless I'm over at my brother's house, right? Because I'm always on streaming. I got ad blockers on everything. I'm paying the premiums. When you're watching live sports, you're gonna sit through the commercials, and we always laugh because he's like. He sees me react to a commercial for the first time, and he's like, I've seen that like 30 times. I remember going, I pulled the Once Upon a Time thing. I was like, that's Black Man in San Francisco.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think I remember that one wasn't even nominated. The Oscars pulled a bogus thing about how, remember how it was used and they decided to not count it. I think that's bogus to not recognize the score as great as this, but they've done that in the past for Mad Max. They did it this year for the score that was used for One Night in Miami. Hell, Judas and the Black Messiah was also disqualified.
Yeah.
I will say
that's actually it'd be nice to see them update the rules, or maybe like we've talked about adding Oscar categories.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to add an Oscar category for best music that's not all original.
Thank you. I was about to say, because it's like you can't really bend those rules. You and I think the rules are really dumb when it comes to foreign films and the way that they use the language. But it's like, I gotta be honest, I don't like it, but if the category is called original music, you gotta play by certain rules.
I get it.
But I agree with you. It is not fair that these aren't even getting recognized. Makes no sense.
And you look at a movie maybe like Promising Young Woman that has done such amazing work with like remixing songs that already exist. That's something that maybe the Academy should recognize.
Us and what it did. Yeah, there's plenty. The man did Homecoming.
Oh, did he do the score for Homecoming as well?
Yeah, the Amazon series Homecoming, which we really, really, really enjoyed. He did, I believe, the follow-up season.
Yeah, I just caught Minari again last night, so I spent all morning listening to his score for Minari, which is just so gorgeous. There's like this hopefulness, yet a melancholic thread underneath it that just like gets me right in my cry zone. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. There's something elegiac in his music. It's like high art. I don't know. I really, really love everything that I've heard from him so far. So
I have my Mean at Eat ticket for today at 8 p.m. So Zach's just been telling me, yo, the Q&A is great. This is that. I am very excited to get into that. He did Kajillionaire too. All right. We are talking about a man who is going to be huge.
Absolutely.
Huge. All right.
Our other question comes in from Cademan Fair. Thanks for the question. He sent it in through Twitter. It reads, I'm able to find time to play video games as much or maybe less than I assume you guys are able to. What are some narrative-based games that I should prioritize playing? The Last of Us 2 is a recent favorite that I found time for.
All right.
I feel like this depends on what you mean by narrative based, because like if we're talking Last of Us 2, it's a game that kind of has a great story that maybe is prioritized, but still there's like a lot of gameplay in Last of Us 2. For me, I'd go with like Red Dead Redemption 2, because for me, I loved that story of loss, regret, and the Wild West, which unfolds over the course of many, many years. It takes place in a world that's like full of design. But if you're talking about a game that's more primarily about its story, I would say maybe like Heavy Rain. I know a lot of people make fun of the David Cage games. I loved Heavy Rain. Yeah, that's the best of his games, I think.
I see someone typing. Shut up. I love Heavy Rain. Dude, I remember loving that game, and then I was like, let me see what the internet has to I don't care. I love that. I think it's the best out of the ones that he had. Is it corny? Is it cringy? Is it completely? Yes. Zach, now you know what it's like to like Batman v Superman. Yes, it is about those moments, but there is sometimes something in there. I'm a big fan of Heavy Rain. I don't think his follow-up games are as good as those, but he's done Beyond Two Souls. He didn't do Detroit, did he?
He did Detroit, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
I kind of forgive some of those games a little bit. Like, yeah, there are corny elements or elements where it doesn't feel like a game, but I just kind of like the branching stories and exploring them. So, yeah, maybe David Cage is a way to play. And there's also just a bunch of games that I think have really interesting stories, even if they're not necessarily about the story. Like, I really like the story behind Final Fantasy X or the recent Final Fantasy VII Remake. I really love Papers, Please. Do you know about Papers, Please?
Papers, Please is absolutely fantastic. Talk about
it.
Talk about
like
it.
That. It's not like there's much of a story. You play a border guard that checks people's documentation, deciding whether or not to let them through. But just the world building in that game is so full.
That is
it puts you in the position of like, am I going to compromise my morals to help out these people, or am I going to do what feeds my family?
Yeah. Did you mess up and let the wrong person in? It's like L.A. Noire in 8-Bit, and you're just like talking to people, asking. That's a really good one. Some of the
L.A. Noire, another good story game.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if you have any other ones, but
no.
I have a couple over here. I hate the follow-ups to Life is Strange, But I don't think the first one is that bad.
Yeah.
And from there, I would say a lot of the Telltale games.
Totally.
That's if you've never played a Telltale game, these bad boys, you can get them for $40 and you get the entire Walking Dead collection. I remember getting off of work from McDonald's and just going in. It's just so easy. I don't have to worry about dying for the most part. It is a comic come to life. I know a lot of people don't consider those games. It is a literal motion picture. Like you are playing within the comic.
We're talking about narrative-based stuff, right?
So I'm glad that this is one that I could actually talk about. Because
they had a Game of Thrones one too that I only played the demo one for, but it's really good.
I have not finished it. I got to 3 chapters. I have it downloaded on like my iPad and my PlayStation. But Chase highly recommended that one. There's the Wolf one. There's plenty of them. BioShock Infinite, if we're talking about like a really big one of the big games. Yeah. That is one of the ones that I remember playing on the Xbox, and I just absolutely fell in love with the story. I right now just bought the entire definitive edition trilogy for Mafia, and Alina and I are really loving it. I mean, she started making me spaghetti, ordered some cannolis. Are we really in that world? That one's really great. But again, just started on the first one. But I'm going to mention Annapurna Interactive if we're talking about narrative-based games. I have my theories in VR. I'm not saying we're going to get into a glitch in the Matrix, but when we're starting to get movie studios getting into the interactive side of games, when we have Sundance really pushing their VR, when we have, Tribeca or South by talking about should we have a category for video game narratives in general to award, I'm really big on the point that we are going to be pushing for a lot of VR movies. And then at what point, once you're in the thing, are you not going to be interactive? Let me get into it. Alejandro González Iñárritu's newest flick that he's been working on for a while, but he needs to actually bring it to your place, is, I'm blanking on the name of it. It is a VR film experience about crossing the border. There's some behind the scenes that was released not too long ago. He made this about 2 years ago. If Alejandro González Iñárritu is working on VR films, that's the next step. Nolan was talking about, I don't know, I think there's still a lot on 2D. Sure, yes, there will still be a lot that can still be done with cinema. But, sir, video games, that whole industry makes more money than music and movies combined. You cannot dismiss that. And it combines all those elements into one. And Annapurna Interactive, seeing a movie studio come in and make these video games. I'd like to recommend Edith Finch, a fantastic. Have you ever played that?
I don't think I have.
Oh my God, I'm giving you recommend. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right.
Edith
Finch. They're also working on that cat game that's supposed to be coming out for the PS5 called Stray.
Oh.
Yeah, that is Annapurna Interactive. There are a lot of movie studios that are getting ready to expand on this, but Annapurna is up on it, and I would highly recommend Edith Finch. It talks about this family. I still feel like they gave it a shout out in Hereditary with the way that the house is built, about a woman coming back to go look through everything that happened in this house and her all of her ancestors, and the terrible things that may or may not have happened in this cycle, this generational cycle of, like, I would call it family curses. I have played through the game 3 times. Absolutely, I think it is worth the experience. It is very short. It is a movie. It is a 3-hour interactive movie.
Yeah, that's one of those. Step. That's, again, one of those that's like, is that even really a game, or is it just this interactive experience? But, like, I don't know how much I care about those if it's a moving, meaningful piece of work. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and that it's blending, man. We've been on that movies, TVs. Nah, the next one is movies, games, reality. We'll see. But great question. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. And as always, you can reach out to us on email at intercutpod@gmail.com, or by reaching out to us through social media at intercutpod to get your question onto the next episode. Also, just leave it in the comments on YouTube. That works for us as well. Always exciting to hear from an intercutie.